September 11th, 2001, 911. I was on a flight from Beijing, China to Chicago, Illinois. We were taking the polar route, and I suppose we were somewhere over the North Pole when the first plane hit the Twin Towers. The pilot came on, and he didn't tell us what had happened. He simply said, "We're being diverted to Fairbanks, Alaska." So 2 hours later, we're circling Fairbanks, and of course we're all wondering what's going on. He then comes on and says we're being rediverted to Calgary, Canada, which takes another 3 hours, and we finally land, and even more concerned and confused, and he still doesn't tell us what happened. As we're deplaning, he simply says the Pentagon is on fire. I got to a phone and called my wife, and she started, it was obvious she was anxious and concerned, and finally I said, "Louise, stop. What's going on? Tell me." And she did. Well, many have compared the trauma of the global pandemic to 911. And of course, in both instances, we struggled to grasp the magnitude of it. How bad is it? With 911, we wondered, are there other terrorists out there? Are there sleeper cells? And of course, with this pandemic, we wonder, how many infections will there be? How many deaths? When and how will the economy recover? Will there be more pandemics? What if I or a loved one get the virus? What if my job doesn't come back? What if? Habakkuk also struggled to grasp, how bad will it get? For him, it was the prospect of the Babylonian invasion. An invasion which then foreshadowed an even more terrible day, the day of the Lord. A day described in cataclysmic terms, using the language of earthquakes and hurricanes and wars. And did you notice chapter 3, verse 5? Plague went before the Lord, pestilence followed his steps. Well, Habakkuk is completely undone. Listen to how he describes the impact upon his body. Verse 16, I heard and my heart pounded. My lips quivered at the sound. Decay crept into my bones and my legs trembled. The reality of what is about to happen shakes him to his very core. And so how will he respond? How are we to respond? Look what he says. Though the fig tree does not bud and there are no grapes on the vine, though the olive crop fails and the fields produce no food, though there are no sheep in the pen, as he looks out into the future, what does he see? Nothing. No figs, no grapes, no olives, no wheat, no corn, no sheep, no cattle. He sees a devastated land. But then he goes on to say, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in God, my Savior. The sovereign Lord is my strength. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer and enables me to go on the heights. Well, how does that square with what we've just read? Is he in some kind of denial? No, he's just described the coming famine. Then how can he land in this place? By faith. The righteous will live by faith. And faith isn't putting on rose-colored glasses, pretending something isn't that is, denying reality. No. Faith is responding today as if the future was already here. And actually, we do that all the time. We celebrate a baby shower before the baby comes. We buy a stock anticipating that it will increase in value. At least we used to do that. We respond today as if the future is already here. Habakkuk was able to find strength and joy in the sovereign Lord because he knew that the Lord would surely come, both to save and to judge. To judge, to bring justice. Justice has been a major theme of this book, and part of Habakkuk's initial anguish is over the rampant injustice in Judah. Justice never prevails. Justice is perverted, he cries. And then, when the Lord tells him that Babylon will be God's instrument of justice, Habakkuk just sees more injustice. Wait. You're going to have the wicked Babylonians swallow up a people more righteous than themselves? That's not fair. That's not just. We're bad, but we're not as bad as them. But then in chapter 2, God assures Habakkuk that the wicked will not get away with their evil, injustice, and sin. Justice will ultimately be delivered. And the second chapter of Habakkuk has 5 woes which announce God's judgment against the proud, against the violent, against those who trust in their wealth, in their security, in their pleasures, in their power, in their idols. God will bring full, complete justice in the end. And so, Habakkuk was able to find strength and joy in the sovereign Lord because he knew that the Lord would surely come both to save and to judge. That's the conclusion of this book. But let's think. What's changed? From the beginning of the book to the end, have the circumstances changed? Well, actually, the circumstances have grown worse. Beginning of the book, Habakkuk didn't know about Babylon, and now he does. The circumstances really haven't changed. Habakkuk has changed. He's far less self-confident, far less having a sense of control, far less certain about how things ought to be done. Habakkuk has come to realize that he can't change the past, he really doesn't understand the present, and he can't control the future. You see, Habakkuk has shrunk, and God has grown far larger in his mind and heart. If we've learned anything in these days of COVID-19, it's that we're not quite as competent and smart and in control as we thought. The fact is, we are a needy people. And that's good news. Good news, because our neediness can and should cause us to cry out to God, to seek him, to trust him. Our inadequacy is actually a gift that can free us to run like that deer with strength and sure-footedness to tread upon the heights. And that's exactly what we need in this moment, to find strength and joy in the sovereign Lord who will surely come both to save and to judge. And to anticipate the final coming of the Lord, our blessed hope, the return of King Jesus. For he will surely come to both judge his enemies and to establish a new heaven and a new earth for his people. Listen to the glorious description of that certain future from Revelation chapter 21. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Behold, look, open your eyes, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore. For the former things, including the coronavirus, have passed away. We have learned on this journey through the book of Habakkuk that God speaks, and that he has revealed himself through the words of the Bible. And the picture that emerges is a God who is all-knowing, all-powerful, and fully engaged with life on planet Earth. He is a God who deeply loves his people, and yet who will pour out his wrath on all sin, evil, and rebellion. He's a God who's a great king, who demands that all submit to his reign and rule. But he's a God who also welcomes the humble, who hears the cry of the weak, who answers those who will seek him. And he's a God who invites the broken and the humble to find strength and joy in him today, in the sovereign Lord who will surely come both to judge and to save. So, what is God doing today in the midst of this pandemic? He's saying, people, let's talk. Why not take him up on his offer right now?